Hello, guys. Welcome to this afternoon, Sunday afternoon. I got some stories I've been following today, very closely. And let's get started. Let's go ahead and open up the charts right here. And let's take a look at what's going on. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the Brexit. First subject I want to get into. We're going to talk about a number of other subjects. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, the cryptocurrencies. We're going to talk about... we got quite a few things to talk about. But anyway, first thing I want to talk about is Brexit. We've got some members in the British Parliament. I'll name them off. One of them's Amber Rudd. The next one is Greg Clark and David Gwark. G-A-U-K-E. Gwark. David Gwark. And David Mundell. So we got two Davids. We got a Greg and we got an Amber. Okay? There's four of them. They have challenged the Prime Minister to sack them. Go ahead, fire us, I don't think they really think that they're going to get fired. They don't think that they're going to get fired. But they're going to support a backbench bid to take the no-deal Brexit that's coming up on March 29th. They want to take that off the table. What they want to do is they want to have an extension to Article 50. In other words, delay. And they're trying to force her to request an extension of Article 50. In other words, delay Article 50 from coming into effect on March 29th. If they delay that, if they could get away with delaying it, I'm not saying they can, but if they could, then they might get into this whole thing where it's kind of like delay off into the future forever. Endless delays. And we never ever see a Britain leaving the European Union. Because this delay. It's just basically kick the can down the road, kick it down the road again. Every time you come to the can, give it another kick, sort of a thing, if they start these extensions. So they're trying to force the Prime Minister into an extension of this Article 50. And it says that there is as many as 22 members of the government who are trying, that they have on their side. So they've declared to Miss May, the Prime Minister, that they have as many as 22 members of the government that are prepared to vote to a backbench bill that would force her to request an extension to Article 50. So let's take a look. How many members are on the British Parliament? We got 650 members in the British Parliament. The Commons is an elected body consisting of 650 members known as Members of Parliament. Members are elected representatives and constituencies by first passing the post and holding their seats in Parliament until dissolved. So we got 650 members of Parliament, and they got 22 on their side. They're declaring they have 22 on their side, these four members of Parliament who are going against Theresa May, and trying to warn her that they're going to delay Article 50. Well, let's see what they can do. We're going to have to wait and see. Now, another story I'm following here is Iran. They use the word here, terrifying. I don't know. I seen pictures of it's a boat. What can I say? It's a boat. Terrifying? Whatever. Okay, let's move on to other news. And in other news here, we got a flash crash in Bitcoin this morning. It took all of 20 minutes. It dropped $500. $500 in 20 minutes, But now it's holding its own. It's leveled off. It's stabilized. It's at $3,782. Earlier this morning, it was $4,141.50. So, I mean, that's quite a little drop, a substantial drop. I mean, people are buying in now at this point, and they've stabilized the market because it was probably a whale. I don't know for sure, but it's probably a whale dumping some coins, or trying to manipulate the market or whatever, But it seems like it's over now. Let's take a look at cryptocurrency market capitalizations. It dropped like about $4 billion off of the market cap. And we're seeing this waterfall drop in some of the coins. Litecoin, my favorite coin, has dropped down. It was like $52. Now it's 45.72. You know, that's just a sudden drop, you know. Anyway, that's what we have happening in cryptocurrencies. Now, what other stories am I following here? Anyway, Italy, the Italians. The Italian bank, you know, the French banks are heavily exposed to Italy. Let's see what it says here. French banks are heavily exposed to Italy, to the tune of like over 250 billion euros. The French banks, that's how exposed they are to Italy. Now, that's ridiculous. If Italy suddenly runs into real financial problems and difficulties, and they can't pay France back, and France has to write that off of their book, 250 billion euros, suddenly France is in trouble, you know? It says, don't underestimate the impact of the Italian recession. This is a stark warning from the French economic minister, Bruno Le Maire. This Italian recession, you know, it's Italy. You know, first off, what I want to talk about real quick here is government. You know, for years the world was run with monarchy. All through the Middle Ages was run with monarchy. And monarchy finally hit the point where the monarchy started to make way for governments. Governments took the place of the monarchy. And we've been under governmental rule worldwide for a long period of time now. It's coming to the point now where government, we're starting to see the flaw in government. What the flaw is government continues to grow. It grows and grows like a weed, you know? And at a certain point in its growth, how it doesn't make money. Government doesn't make money. Government spends money. And how government officials get in offices, the guy who promises the most and gives the most is the guy that gets in. And the only way they can give is to borrow money. So government continues to borrow money and grow. Add new members of government, it keeps growing. Well, after a while, it hits a point where it's so big, government is so big, that the people can't support it any longer. Because the government's growing to a size, and this is the fatal flaw in government. Monarchy went out and it was replaced by government. This is a fatal flaw in government. So as a trend that I see developing is government now, the people are getting dissatisfied because they're not getting enough from the government. They expect the government to do everything for them, to pay all their bills, to support them, to maintain the roads, to maintain the police forces, list goes on and on and on and on. And the government's like they're doing a juggling act. Oh my gosh, we're running out of money. Well, we can't do those roads this year because we haven't got enough money. We can't fill the potholes this year. Oh, we have to wait until next year, and the people are wanting more and more and more. You got to fill these potholes, and blah, blah, blah. Goes on and on. And the government just can't handle it. So the government says, well, we got to borrow more money. So they borrow more money. They get deeper in debt. And then they have to cut. They have to start making cuts. And when they start making cuts and austerity measures, the people start getting very upset because the people expect a lot. So then politicians come in that promise them a lot. Well, that's the stage we're in right now. We're in the stage where the people are going for the politicians who promise them the most. A turkey in every pot. And hey, let's elect him. He's just offered us a turkey in every pot, sort of thing. Right? But then those people get elected in, and then they can't meet their promises because the government's broke. But they try, so then they run over budget. Well, this is what's happening in Italy. Italy has got their government elected in now that promised the people the most, and they're trying to deliver. But what's it doing to the Italian budget? It's destroying the Italian budget. This can't go on forever, and as soon as the government in Italy starts to get to the point where they can't spend any more money, then the people are going to continue to get dissatisfied. What all this is leading to eventually is governments actually starting to... The only governments that are going to remain standing in the end are totalitarian governments that rule the people with an iron fist. Right? That's all that's going to remain in the end. Just like the monarchies dwindled back and there's only a few remaining monarchies, there will be a few remaining governments, and these governments are going to suppress the people completely. So that if the people even speak out the least little bit, they end up in some sort of a camp. Take the government of North Korea, for instance, as an example. Those governments will be able to maintain their power, and they'll probably be the last surviving governments 50 years from now. So what we're doing is we're looking 50 years out into the future. Right? What's going to replace these governments, and what I see replacing these governments, is corporations, eventually. So we're looking at corporate rule eventually, which is called a corptocracy. And ultimately I see that moving in as the next step in human development. It's like we're in a process of like an evolutionary development of the world. So we've come through the monarchy period, and I mean it's working its way through different forms of government. And so ultimately the conclusion of all of this is the world will probably end up being under corporate control. But, that would be probably at least 50 years into the future. This is going to be a slow process, this disintegration of the governments, because they grow too big. Basically, they're like a weed. They just keep growing and growing. Adding more and more employees to help support them. Because, see, the more employees they add, the more workforce they have in the country. And they just keep borrowing more. So it's a system that's set up with especially in the United States right now, with a lender of last resort, which is the Federal Reserve to lend to the government, and the borrower of last resort, which is the United States government. Between these two, the government can just keep borrowing, and the lender can just keep lending, and they can just keep racking the debt up higher and higher and higher until a point. The point is when the government can't make the minimum payments on the outstanding debt because interest rates have gone too high and the debt is too big, and they can't even make the minimum payments with all of their taxes coming in. They are not allowed. They can't make the minimum payments on their debt. Then one of two things have to happen. There's only two ways for the government to go, and at that point they've reached a trap. They can either default on their debt, which causes utter and outright chaos, right? So that's a direction they're not likely to go in, because it would be absolute chaos. And the only other way is to inflate the debt away. To inflate it away with inflation. And inflation would destroy the debt, basically. So those are the only two directions that they can go when you have the borrower of last resort and the lender of last resort, and they're working together. And this is exactly what we have. So this debt's just going to keep growing and growing and growing until the interest rates get to the point and the debt gets to the point where it's too big for them to pay the minimum payments on the outstanding debts. It works exactly like a guy's got credit cards, and he's using more cards to pay off his other cards. Eventually, he hits the spot where it just doesn't work anymore. He can't make the minimum payments. But he doesn't have the option to borrow more money to inflate his way out. The government does have that option. He has to go bankrupt, the guy that's got the credit cards. Anyway, I've spoken enough. Thank you guys for listening to this report, and bye-bye for now, guys.